have the
Some
the
small
screen,
preview.
coming soon. But it's okay. We can talk for a minute while everybody files in. I'm checking on Twitch. It does look like we are live. Oh, there's
Yes.
somebody in chat. I was too pessimistic. There's a gentleman with a long string of numbers as the name there. Hello, gentleman with. I'm not going to say all those numbers. Hello, how are you?
Okay. So, Chris, of course, very nice. It will be very exciting to comment with you today. Probably most of the guys on Lichess know No Joke as a admin, as a serious admin, but Chris as well is a great chess player. So it will be great fun to comment with Chris. And of course, Chris, first question from my point: who is your favorite? Who is your favorite in this tournament? Who is your favorite player?
Well, I'm gonna go out on a really shaky limb here, and I'm very optimistic about this Magnus Carlsen fella. I think he's pretty good. I think he has some talent. I think he has excellent chances to win the event.
Yeah.
I mean, I never know. I feel bad for commentators that when they get asked that question, because that's the standard commentator question.
Yeah.
And they want to be interesting, and if you just say Magnus is good, it's hardly a blockbuster news. Not much of a hot take. I should just pretend that I think whoever the least likely to win is going to win, just to be interesting, right?
And Chris, who you think might be able to stop Magnus Carlsen? Who do you think is capable of fighting Magnus?
Well, to answer seriously, they all can. The other three are Nepo, Anish Giri, Wesley So. These people have all beaten Magnus in games before. It wouldn't be, totally unprecedented for one of these guys to beat him. And you don't have to beat him in 10 games. I mean, the format is you have to beat him. You have to basically win one game on both days. And it could even be like a blitz game, and in blitz games, lots of accidents happen. Lots of weird things can happen. So it wouldn't be crazy if any of these guys beat him in a classical game, and to beat him in a 5-3 game or an Armageddon game, of course it's possible.
Yeah, and I mean, in case we take a look at Wesley So, who managed to beat him twice in a row in the final, unbelievable what Wesley is showing. Who would expect it, Magnus twice to lose in the final to Wesley So. Very, very unexpected. Okay, Chris, so let us start maybe checking the positions. We have Magnus Carlsen against Jan Nepomniachtchi. I think a very exciting match, no? Jan Nepomniachtchi completely unpredictable. This guy is playing crazy chess. Now we are having Magnus with white, Jan Nepomniachtchi with black. What do you think, Chris? How is the position?
Looks pretty even. I mean, I guess we're not allowed to turn on the engine, right?
No. That would be never, Chris. We're never turning on the engine. Then it's boring.
Using my very complicated method of counting the pieces and the pawns, I would say it is totally and utterly drawn. They should just quit playing. It's so drawn.
Yes, Chris, I totally agree with you. I think Magnus reached nothing out of opening, and just take a look at the time of Jan Nepomniachtchi. Was still 16 minutes on the clock. Yeah, he even managed to gain some time.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that suggests that he was using preparation.
He been clearly well prepared. Maybe we can take a quick glimpse at what happened actually. So we have Magnus Carlsen with knight f3, d5, knight c3, d takes c4. So Nepomniachtchi is choosing Vienna, and usually he's not playing Vienna. So Nepomniachtchi seems to be amazingly prepared. Yeah, Chris, it's unbelievable. I mean, the preparation he showed against Nakamura. To win straight out of openings a couple of times. He seems to be...
That's hard to do against super GMs. You don't generally have that sort of hole in your opening repertoire when you're a 2800 that works on chess 8 hours a day.
Yes, very, very hard task. So Nepomniachtchi is really so well prepared, and I believe he surprised a little bit Magnus Carlsen with d takes c4. Now we have Vienna with the move e4, b5. So Nepomniachtchi is really going very sharp against Magnus Carlsen with his move b5. We have long lines of theory. And as we can see, the position bishop a6, and white goes with his bishop takes c4, take, bishop d6. Of course, it is still theory, and usually, as far as I know, it's been counted as a little bit better for white. So I guess Magnus been a bit surprised that Nepomniachtchi really made the choice of playing this opening, but on the other hand, we can see how well Nepomniachtchi is prepared, and he still plays just so fast, yeah. So we have Magnus with this 14 queen to d3. I guess Magnus been already out of his lines, at least by the time he spent. He has spent so far already 6 minutes. And Nepomniachtchi goes on by playing this knight d7, c4, c5, d5, ed, queen take d5, knight b6, queen d3, rook d8, queen c2. And yes, Chris, I totally agree to your position estimation. It's just nothing for white, yeah?
Yeah. Magnus has this reputation of not playing theoretical openings. I think it's slightly exaggerated. Like he's playing the Kalashnikov in World Championship matches. It's hardly a non-theoretical opening. But I think it's just that he thinks he's the best player in the world. So he'd rather just play chess instead of try to beat you with preparation.
But I think, Chris, as well, many people underestimate that Magnus has unbelievable preparation in these small sidelines. He's maybe not choosing the most concrete opening, or not always the most sharp openings, or most, let's say, theoretical battles. But on the other hand, he knows exactly what he is doing in these little lines, yeah? So his strategy in the openings is a bit different. In case we take great Kramnik, the preparation of Kramnik been always very direct, yeah. Or we take Giri with a very direct preparation. Magnus is choosing, I think, different standard, yeah, different approach to the whole preparation stuff. He's avoiding very forced lines, but still he knows very well what he is actually doing. So for many spectators, sometimes it seems like Magnus is not preparing for the games. I think this is a big mistake to think so. He still knows quite well, even if it's not the main line that he's usually choosing, but he knows them extremely well.
I remember that Magnus played the Trompowsky, I think, in the first game of the match with Karyakin, was it? Yeah. And everyone got very excited, and look, he's playing weird openings. I guarantee you that wasn't, the first time he'd ever looked at the Trompowsky.
No, for sure, Chris.
I'm sure there was some work put in on the Trompowsky. You can study weird openings, but just as well as you study more popular openings.
Yes, exactly, Chris. As Magnus is very well prepared in the things he does. And it might look like that he just wakes up and he thinks, what I'm gonna play today. This is not the case. I can promise you this is not the case. He knows what he's doing. He has a big team working for him. His seconds are very hard workers. We see rarely Magnus having trouble in the opening. So it means the team is doing a good work, and of course Magnus is a great player, yeah? So he believes in himself that he can just outplay the opponent basically in any kind of positions. To this I have to agree. Okay, Chris, let us take a look at Anish Giri, Wesley So. Who is your favorite in the match between Anish Giri and Wesley So?
Wesley So has been playing amazing lately, so I suppose if I was betting money, I would have to bet on him. But again, Anish Giri, very strong player. I wouldn't fall out of my chair if he won the match today.
And I think Anish Giri is lately in an amazing shape, yeah? Playing Vaikanze, really showing strong performance, amazing performance in Vaikanze. Beating Maxim Vashilagraf in the previous match. I think Anish is in a very good shape. So he's totally capable of showing a hard match against Wesley So. What do you think about the current position? Anish Giri?
Well, I suppose it looks sort of even. I'm not a big, I'm not.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm not thinking anybody has a big advantage, but maybe I'm missing something.
I think White has a pawn up, no, Chris?
Oh, see, I knew I would make that mistake.
It's very important to count the pieces. Last time you said on the game as Magnus, you are counting carefully.
Yeah, I knew I would fall into that trap because I told you who was winning the last one based on counting pieces, and eventually I was like, all right, stop counting the pieces. Look at the position. I should have kept counting the pieces.
Yeah.
Extra pawn is good. I like extra pawns.
Yeah, so I think with an extra pawn, Anish Giri should be having some advantage, at least some advantage. Personally, I like a lot the position of white, yeah, just extra pawn. There is some pressure on the e file, but all in all, I think Anish Giri should be doing better. At least this is how I do understand the position. And I believe that maybe Anish can try something tricky. What do you think, Chris? There is this queen on a5, queen on h5.
Yeah, I suppose positionally you don't want to play e5.
Definitely not, yeah.
If you don't have to. I mean, if I guess if you have to or lose the pawn, you would. But playing e5 leaves that big d5 square for the knight and
Yes.
adds scope to the bishop. So
Yes. White should avoid, yeah, playing e5. This is correct,
yeah.
Of course, yeah. What else can we do? Wesley saw he wants to take on e4 next, I guess, yeah? So f take e is a direct threat. Can white somehow avoid this? Difficult, yeah? Fe?
Yeah, I don't see much. I think it either has to stay there or it has to go to e5.
Maybe there is a pawn sacrifice, something like g4 instantly. So f take g would be forced. And at least we cover now the d5 square, yeah, which is not bad. So, of course, to give a pawn back, not sure it's the best idea, but I think after g4, f take g, maybe with white, we might try. I don't even take on h5, bishop take h5, so now the bishop on h5 is just horrible, yeah, because bishop has no squares. In case the bishop goes back, the g4 pawn is going to fall. So maybe it's a try for white. g4, take, queen take h5, bishop take h5. Now we must be careful with the knight d5 move. So maybe there is something like king f2 maybe. Does it work? King f2. We must be careful with g3 move, but maybe king to f2 is still possible. And white might hope for a better endgame, I think, because the bishop on h5 is really misplaced. So
yeah, it seems like a good sacrifice. Trading a pawn that wasn't amazing to release the pressure on the e file. You get this gigantic center.
I think
it's comfy.
I think, Chris, yeah, your initial idea, we should fight for the d5 square. Yeah, d5 square is just so important. So in case white manages to avoid this knight d5 push, white should be doing better, but not easy, except playing g4. I don't see something for white, because f take e is a direct threat. In case of f take e, I don't think white is doing better, because the b3 pawn might get very weak. Yeah, this bishop on f7. So yeah, not sure.
Yeah, it seems like a very practical decision. I don't know what the alternative was to giving up that pawn. Maybe, nothing is better and you just have to do that. But it seems like a very practical decision. You give the pawn back and you just, instead you'd rather have, I think most players, maybe most strong players, would rather have an easy position with even material instead of, a very fraught position where they're up a shaky pawn.
Yes, Chris, especially we need always to think how big is the risk of losing. Yeah, this is what top players are always caring about. Let's say in case you have a position which you might be doing better, but you still have quite decent chance of losing the game. Mostly people do prefer to play a game where they're maybe not that much better, but almost with very minimal chances of losing the game. And Giri is, for example, definitely one of these players. Giri hates when he gets into tricky positions. So I believe he will try to do something safe.
Yeah.
Let's see what Anish Giri is going to play next. Anish, of course, is in a great shape and great player. So let's see what Anish is going to play next.
We have some of those moves on the board, by the way. We have g4, pawn takes g4, and he played queen c3 instead of trading queens.
Oh, okay. So we have the move g4. This move we guessed correctly. Now we have this queen c3. a5 might be a threat. No more knight d5. This is nice.
Yep, the queen very nicely defends on e3, so
yeah,
knight e5 isn't a problem.
Yes, I still believe white should be doing better. I still think, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It feels better. It feels better for white, yeah. Nice. Maybe let us go back to the game of Magnus Carlsen, because you predicted it's going to be a draw during the next couple of moves, but still the guys are fighting.
Well, I don't understand why they're still playing, but it's their time to waste, I suppose. I'm joking. If it was an even position, obviously, not drawn. Drawn in even positions is not.
Yes,
Not the
yeah, two very different things actually.
same. Yeah.
So let's see. Knight on e4. So Jan Nepomniachtchi wants to get his knight to c3, then maybe check on e2. Magnus, less than 5 minutes. Do you think, Chris, Magnus is in a little bit of danger, or?
Well, he's closed the gap on the clock a little bit. It was getting a little bit bad in the opening because I think Magnus had used 5 or 10 minutes and Nepo had increased his time with the increment.
Yeah.
So it's gotten a little bit closer. Magnus could easily go in the tank right here and change that. These things can change quickly in rapid games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, black looks a little better. At least all those pieces in the middle look very nice.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, it might get very quickly very tricky in such positions, actually. Because it looks like completely equal positions. This is truth. But on the other hand, in case black manages somehow to get the knight to c3, or to capture one of the pawns, a5, c4, the position might get instantly extremely tricky. So I think Magnus needs to be a little careful here. What is he going to play next? To take a7, probably it's too rush, yeah? I mean, to take a7 looks just so dangerous. So I think queen take a7 is not really an option. Maybe just to return back with a queen on d3 to avoid this knight to c3. On the other hand, then rook d6 will be possible. So queen d3, we have this rook d6 by Nepomniachtchi. So I think Magnus is in slight trouble, Chris.
Yeah, queen takes a7 is one of those moves where, I don't know, personally, I wouldn't have the courage to look at it. Maybe like Viktor Korchnoi would play it in principle, but your queen is, at least 2 or 3 moves from getting back to the king side, and a lot of terrible things are going to happen to you in that time.
Too risky, and I think Magnus is playing rook e1. Rook e1 did happen in the game, so Magnus is very careful. With a move rook to e1, Nepomniachtchi is thinking, taking his time. I think Nepomniachtchi might be also careful in case he wants to with a6 move, just to be sure.
Yeah.
And maybe in style of actually Nepomniachtchi could be a move as g5, or Chris, what do you think? G5, a typical move by Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Yeah, that's a very Nepo move.
Yeah, let's push for it. And actually g5 is looking pretty logical. Yeah, we have the idea of playing g4 next. Which is quite unpleasant. Now we have the square g7 for the king, which is also nice. The white pieces, especially the knight on f3, is pinned by the queen f4 and the knight on e4. I think g5 is looking pretty nice. I don't know, Chris. What do you think? G5?
Yeah, I feel bad for chess teachers when they have to teach like kids, and they teach them, never move pawns in front of your king. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, move pawns under your king. And then they, see super GMs doing it, and they have to, admit, okay, never move them ever, except sometimes it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is sort of an exception, but on the other hand, g5 feels quite safe, because, Chris, sometimes people are saying you're opening the position of your king, but actually what is important? Can somebody attack your king? Yeah, because if there is no one to attack, so it's okay. Yeah, it's like with a weak pawn. Weak pawn is a weak pawn, but is there actually a piece of your opponent that is endangering your pawn? Yeah, and we have this typical example with the Isolani pawns. If there are no rooks on the board, in case just light pieces has left, so Isolani pawn is not a problem. Yeah, so you must have some pieces to explore these weaknesses of the king. And there are just so few pieces left on the board. Okay, let's see how the game will continue. Let us switch to Anish Giri and Wesley. So we have this queen c3, queen to h4, played by Wesley. And
what is queen h4? Explain that to me. Are we?
I think he wants to play
protecting
h5
e7?
next.
What's happening?
h5. I think h5.
Okay.
Because he has to protect the pawn on g4 somehow.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Can't play h5 while your queen's on h5.
Yeah. So he just prepares h5 move, and Anish Giri, of course, is thinking now how to explore this bad position of the knight on b6, because the black knight is completely out of play. So Anish is thinking maybe we're gonna see a move as knight hf1. Yeah, very safe. And then we can get over g3 maybe to f5 or something. And knight from f1 defends the rook on e3. Looks pretty solid, I think.
Yeah, I don't know where else that knight is going if it's not taking on g4.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now we have the d knight going to f1.
Well, I guess the h knight won't be going to f1, at least not in the very near future. It'll take in the next 2 moves at least.
It looks a bit strange, yeah? Knight df1. Why to keep the knight on h2? Hard to tell, Chris. Personally, I would not play knight df1, yeah, because even if I get my knight to g3 now, I still have this very bad knight on h2.
Yeah, they're sort of stepping on each other's toes right now. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, let's see what Geary is planning, because I believe h5 is now quite passable by Wesley So, and in case of knight g3, maybe just to get g6. So to be extremely solid, and well, I don't know, Chris. Why not knight hf1 and knight df1? Yeah, very hard to explain. g3 by Wesley So. Wow. Wesley So is going for the f4 pawn. Yeah, he just goes straight for the f4.
Yeah, and I assume after rook takes g3, the e4 pawn would be hanging, which is not ideal.
Yeah, but I think it's getting very tricky because knight g3, queen take f4, maybe something like knight f5 is possible. So the position of the black king on g8 is getting very tricky. Actually, I'm not a big fan of the move g3 by Wesley So because it's so risky. It might be very strong, but it might be also very bad. Just take a look. Rook f1 is possible, yeah? Knight f5, rook g3. The white pieces are so fast.
Yeah, they're getting very active.
They're getting extremely active, and the knights are just so dangerous as well. The queen on c3 is looking towards the pawn on g7. The knight on b6 is quite out of game. So Wesley So needs to be extremely careful now. I mean, it looks scary. It looks extremely scary. But of course, Anish Giri needs to find the right approach, what to play next. In case of knight f5, probably there is rook take e4, yeah? Which is working. No, knight f5 by Giri. So Giri thinks he is winning the game. He plays knight f5, rook take e4. I think it's almost forced by Wesley So because there is nothing better. In case you're not taking now on e4, I think it is just over. So
all the terrible things happen with the white pawn still on e4. You might as well.
Yeah.
You might as well have a pawn for your trebles.
Yeah, indeed. So rook take e4 played by Wesley So. Very interesting what is going Giri to play next. Because I think or white is winning or black is winning now. We have just 2 options.
Yeah, it's going to get very, very tactical here, very concrete.
Yeah, the next move of Anish Giri will decide everything, because or he just blunders a pawn on e4, or he has something in mind. So I think he's gonna take rook take e4 and rook f1, but I'm not so sure about it.
Yeah, well, that e4 pawn that was limiting the black pieces so much is now gone, at least. So the knight on b6 has new purpose in his life, new spring in his step. It remains to be seen if he'll have the time to do anything with it.
Yeah. No, but I think, Chris, it's so concrete now, yeah? It just, or white is winning, or black is just having a winning position, yeah? Black is already a pawn up, and a couple of moves ago, Wesley So had a pawn down position, yeah? Just imagine, Wesley So managed to take 3 pawns of Anish Giri without a couple of moves. So, yeah. A big change. I think Anish has blundered something, because I don't see the next move of Anish Giri.
Yeah, well, this sort of position, you either have something or you don't. If Anish doesn't, if he's not checkmating or winning material or doing something in the next 5 or 10 moves, then it seems like Wesley will just consolidate.
Yeah. Yes, Chris, I completely agree to you. And why all this happens to Anish Giri? Because he moved the wrong knight. we suggested the knight from the H file, yeah, that the knight from D2 would still protect the pawn on E4. So everything would be very safe, but yeah. Anish.
Was he thinking a long time on that move? I'll go back and look.
Yeah,
That could be one of those long think, wrong thinks
Yeah,
things.
3 minutes. He thought very long, for very long time, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the old truism. Whenever you're thinking a long time on a move, you're slowly talking yourself into screwing up.
Yeah, indeed. Sometimes, yeah. Because sometimes it's very tricky situation actually, Chris, because in case, let's say you play a classical game and you have a very complex position, so let's say you're thinking for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, at this moment you're telling yourself, okay, it's time to decide what you're playing next. And on the other hand, you want to be sure that your calculation is objectively correct. And it's a very tough psychological question, yeah? Are you thinking for longer, maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes, to find the best approach, or you're just trusting your guts, trusting your intuition, and you are playing something? So many times I had this question which I had to ask myself, and a tough one.
Yeah, there's a bit of a selection bias here, like they have in science. So if a player is thinking for a long time on a move, it's probably a difficult position, which means that there may not be great moves to find. So there could be a correlation between thinking for a long time and bad moves.
No, definitely. You're just getting tired, Chris. In case you're thinking for, let's say, over 30 minutes, you're getting extremely tired, yeah? It takes a lot of energy. So, definitely. So, Anish Giri is taking knight take h6. Very strange, and resigns. What a game by Anish Giri. Chris, what is this? He had a better position.
Look at his position 10 moves before, and it looked great. Everything looked amazing, and it all just fell apart so quickly. That's incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable, because Anish Giri, I mean, he had a huge advantage, and quite interesting play as well by Wesley So, because he played this 23, the move 23 of black. Wesley So is playing f5. It seems like he blundered the pawn, but actually, of course, he did not. He sacrificed it for the hope of controlling the white squares, and from this moment Anish Giri played this g4. I like the move g4, but I do not like the move knight df1. It looks very strange to me, Chris. Why to move the knight from d2 to f1, and why not to take the knight from h? Little strange, and personally I see rarely Giri sort of completely collapsing at some moment. Usually he's very stable. I don't know, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, everyone, it's kind of unfair with all these players. Everybody sort of knows one thing about all the players, and the one thing they know about Anish Giri is that he drew all of his games in that candidates tournament, and they sort of lazily, say that he draws all his games, which is seems totally unfair. Like, the guy plays the Naidorf and the Grunfeld as black. You can't use that sort of person of, not playing positive chess.
No, I completely agree to you. Actually, when you watch the games of Anish Giri, he has great opening preparation, and actually he is fighting, yeah? It's not a guy who just wants a draw. So he is fighting for a win, and most of his games are indeed ending in a draw, which is quite strange, yeah? Because he is fighting. And 10 years ago, maybe, there have been a lot of jokes about Peter Liko, yeah? Because as well, Liko had average of maybe 90% of making draws at the super tournaments, and some guys been saying that Liko, he is not playing the moves, he is drawing the moves.
Yeah, the draw shaming in the previous generation was like Kramnik and Leko, and maybe I'm forgetting somebody, and then before that, all of Petrosian's games were drawn. There's always some player in the generation that draws too many games, and people sort of get upset with them. Yeah. I don't think Anish is at all a comparable player to Peter Letko. Like,
no, definitely not.
Anish is a much more aggressive player. He, in that candidates tournament, I mean, I haven't looked at the games in a million years, but as I recall, he was getting great positions, and just was unable to turn it into the full point. So it's hardly like he's playing totally dead openings and agreeing a draw after 20 moves. It's not what happened.
Yes. No, I completely agree to you, Chris. Anish is always pushing with a white color, especially with a white color. He's quite aggressive, and he's getting nice positions indeed. And he tries to win. Just I think the big advantage of Anish is actually his opening preparation. He's having amazing preparation, yeah? And maybe a little bit his disadvantage is the conversion of these nice positions that he's getting. So it's like his plus and his minus. He is not trying to make a draw in all possible positions. Yeah, definitely not. Okay, Chris, so back to Magnus Carlsen against Jan Nepomniachtchi. The game still goes on. And yeah, what do you say? So your prediction of a draw comes true?
The black pieces are still all in the center, but there are noticeably less of them. So I suppose that means that the things are much more even than they were before.
Chris, why do you think so? I think Jan Nepomniachtchi is trying to do something.
No, I mean, it's not immediately a draw, but it looks more comfortable for Magnus.
Yes.
Not so much as clock, I guess.
yes. Okay, maybe you can see it that way, that he survived the direct complications, but still, I think the Magnus has some way to go to defend this position. We have the weak pawn on a5, which might be a little tricky. The knight on e4 is very strong, so I don't know, Chris. I think it is still a fight. It is not a direct draw.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I don't know. This knight on e4 is really nice knight, yeah? So, but Magnus comes now with this idea, knight h4, actually very nice idea, because he wants to play next f3. Knight h4, g6. Okay, Magnus with very low time already, 40 seconds just.
How much of an increment do they get here? Let me read my
10
own
seconds.
tournament.
10 seconds, Chris, I think.
Okay. All right, so it's not a huge increment, but there won't be any silly flagging or anything, or there shouldn't be, knock on wood.
No, probably not. But you know, Chris, it's so strange. In case you're playing, let's say, a blitz game, 3+2, it seems like 2 seconds is quite little time. Then you're playing this plus 10 seconds, and once you're down on time, it feels like you have to hurry so much, yeah? Because you're just having initially much more time from the beginning, and it's so difficult to change suddenly to play on 10 seconds. It's not that much time as it seems. So
yeah, I would be interested to see. Wait, we could totally do this. I would be interested to see the Lichess database, like how many flags there are by percentage, like running out of time, 0 seconds, by the amount of increment, because you can absolutely flag with a 2 second increment. I mean,
definitely. Yeah.
In theory, you shouldn't, but it happens so much.
Of course. I mean, 3+2 to flag is quite easy, and even in over the board tournaments, a lot of games been decided by the time. Do you remember this famous game of Firuza against Magnus Carlsen, opposite color bishops?
Yes, where he flagged, as I recall. That's the one.
Yeah. Easy win. Opposite color bishop.
And they had more than 2 seconds increment, didn't they?
2 seconds, yeah. 2 seconds. I think
okay.
2 seconds, yeah.
No, 2 seconds is nothing. You're thinking, what's my move, and you go to play it, and you go, oh, wait a minute, I can't play that. Oh, and you flagged.
Yes.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, it can go very, very fast. So, Magnus Carlsen with knight e5. I think Magnus is in actually some small trouble already, Chris. I don't know if something tactical is working already. Seems like not. Jan Nepomniachtchi with king f6. Not bad.
Wow, it's... I assume there was no good discovery there.
Maybe.
I imagine Nepo would find it if there was.
Probably, yeah. Nepo is very sharp, very, very sharp. I think Magnus wants to get his knight over b6 to d5, so Nepo needs to be careful. I think he underestimated the move knight d7. I think knight d7, knight b6 is looking now very strong for white. In case Magnus gets his knight to d5, I think it is maybe already white who is doing better now. So
it's pretty amazing that there's no crazy discovery with the queen on b7.
Yeah, a bit strange, yeah.
I mean, if it's not black's move right now, but if it was, knight g5 check, king f1,
or maybe even
queen
f3,
h1, king e2 or something. I don't know.
White does always have the f3 move, so f3 is very safe.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, the situation has changed completely. Now White is having the nice knight, and Nepomniachtchi is having the bad knight on f6. So I believe Magnus Carlsen is doing better now. I think Nepomniachtchi has missed some opportunities, and Magnus is the one who plays for a win now. Because I think the white queen goes to b3, then to b6, a6 pawn might fall somewhere. And to give a perpetual check to the white king on g2, it's going to be a hard task. So
Yeah, this one turned around quick.
very quick, yeah. No, but it's so often, Chris, on this top level, you make one unprecise move, and instead of being better, you're suddenly just worse, yeah. So yeah, it goes so fast. Let's see. Let's see if the game ends in a draw. Maybe queen to e5 is possible. I don't know. Queen e5 by Nepomniachtchi. Queen to somewhere d2 maybe first to cover. Queen d7. Queen d7 played by Nepomniachtchi. Interesting. What is he planning to do after queen b3?
Suffer. He's planning to suffer.
Suffer.
And hopefully not lose.
Interesting. Let's see. h4. h4 by Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, nice move, h4. Very nice prophylactica move. Now the white king has a square on h3, and as well the move h5 might be possible at some moment.
And Magnus is fully caught up on the clock too. He was down 10 minutes or something earlier.
Yes.
All of that is gone now.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. No, but I think Magnus Carlsen is now clearly pushing for a win. He feels that the game has turned, and he has a chance. Out of nowhere, huh, Chris? You are defending, and then suddenly you are better. So now Magnus with queen b3. So this is something that we've been a little bit anticipating. Interesting, what is Nepomniachtchi going to play next? If he's going to take on d5, but I think to take on d5 is the wrong choice. To take on d5 is too dangerous. Maybe something like g4 is possible, yeah, to have this perpetual check in case needed.
G4 makes a lot of sense.
Queen e6.
Could clear the e4 square for the knight too.
Nepomniachtchi is risking so much. He gives a chance for queen b7. King g6. Wow. He's not afraid of knight e7. What is happening after knight e7? Knight e7, king h5. Nepomniachtchi is still alive. So king f2 by Magnus Carlsen. And the both guys are playing so fast. Chris, now queen b6 is a deadly threat. White wants to play queen b6, and the game will be just over. Nepomniachtchi is in big danger.
Okay, so yeah, queen b6, and if he plays queen f7, you play h5 maybe?
Yes, h5, or I just take on a6, yeah. And the game is done. I think Nepomniachtchi is in a huge danger now, Chris. I think he might lose the game. He needs to find something. He takes on d5. What is this? I don't get the move. There is queen b6 next, or queen take a6, and the game is done.
If he doesn't flag, that's also in play.
Queen f6, very interesting. What is he planning after queen to b6? I think it is a winning position for white. Yes, queen b6 by Magnus.
Oof.
Very good chances.
That'll do it.
King f7, queen takes c5. I think very decent chances of winning this position. Let's see what Magnus is going to play next. Yes, Magnus. Magnus is using all his chances, huh, Chris? He is not missing on that. In case you give a chance to Magnus, he's going to take it.
He's been playing much quicker than Nepo too.
Yes.
It's an underrated part of his ability. I mean, he's the world champion. He's good at everything, but that's why he's so good at bullet. He has the little clock that we all have in our head that tells you to move, that tells you like you need to stop thinking and make a move. He has the best one of anybody.
No, he's very strong. Yeah, I think some people really do underestimate how fast Magnus is, yeah, because he's first playing quite slow in the opening, so it seems like opponent has some time advantage. But when it comes to this quick play, Magnus is so good, yeah. He is extremely good in this. Queen d1 check by Nepomniachtchi. What is happening after king to e5, king d6, king c6, and I think the game is done. I think Magnus won the game. Yeah, queen take f3, so this position is already winning for white. Chris, Magnus is winning his first game. Unbelievable, yeah? From such a position.
I feel justified when I mentioned earlier that he was good at chess. I feel that makes me look very smart.
No, he's sort of good, yeah. But of course, I never understand how is he doing it, yeah? Because let's say a guy like Nepomniachtchi, he calculates well. He sees well the tactical things, and still against Magnus, he is making mistakes, which usually he is not doing. So it is a bit strange, yeah? People are sort of afraid when they play Magnus.
This is just the typical like Magnus, snowball game where Nepo was better, and then it was probably even, and then he was a little bit worse, and then just all the momentum kept going in that direction.
Yeah, but let's say yesterday, Aronian, in this completely winning position with a lot of time on the clock, yeah, he still let Magnus Carlsen escape this game. And I think it in such a winning position, it does not really depend anymore on Magnus, yeah, because the position is just winning objectively. It is too simple winning to miss these chances, and still people against Magnus Carlsen are missing these chances. Sort of. I think he has some psychological effect on this top players, yeah. Maybe you do remember his score against Anand or Nakamura.
That
was
the score against Nakamura could not be explained with purely chess reasons.
Yes, exactly. At some moment it was insane, yeah. It was I think Nakamura been scoring something like half a point out of 10 games or something like that. It is super unobjective, yeah. There is no way to explain it. And now d7 and Magnus wins, yeah. d8, queen take g5, and it is game over. So, yeah. Nice win. I think there will be a way now to change the queens with a check somehow, no, Chris? Should be something?
Yeah, there should be.
Yeah, I think...
I don't know. Queen endings are scary. There's too much to calculate.
I think Magnus should find a way to get his queens changed, and there should be a way from the feeling. The king on e3 is well placed. In worst case, he can try to play a6, but of course the game will last another 150 moves, maybe.
Well, I have a question for you. I know we're not allowed to check engines, and I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we allowed to check table bases?
Chris, that takes away the fun, I think,
okay,
the fun
no
factor.
Table bases.
Because
it's fine. Just asking.
No, I think we should try to think with our head. No, but I think in case you check such a queen endgame on the table base, it will show you it is probably a draw. Let's say queen endgames with an a pawn, usually it is a draw. But in a practical game, it is so difficult to hold it. Yeah, it is incredibly difficult to hold it. So I don't know, Chris, what table base is going to tell you, but I think from the practical point of view, the game is, I would count it maybe 80-20, 80% to win and 20 to make a draw.
Yeah, the table base is comparable to the engine in the sense that you can't, whatever the evaluation isn't the end of the story. If some table base tells you it's a draw, it doesn't mean that, that the players can't find a way to win.
Definitely. And once again, sometimes in a table base, you need to make 30 only moves in a row, and no human is able to show this kind of performance. Yeah. So
yeah.
One time I had a funny discussion with some friend because he liked quite a lot these Dvoretsky books, and in these Dvoretsky books, quite often you see a very complex position and you try to find a solution and you cannot. Even as a grandmaster, I could not to find the right solution. So then you look inside the book and it's written, of course, rook g4, for example. So I'm thinking, wow, if it's not, of course, for me, for who is this book written, actually? Yeah. So you are missing sometimes this practical aspect in the table bases or in this super comprehensive books, because I think writers sometimes are forgetting. In case you're getting a rook endgame, probably you already have played at least 3-4 hours. Yeah, you have 3-4 hours behind you. You are feeling a little bit tired, and it is not like you repeated it yesterday. So it is sometimes so different to have a position which is practically winning and position is that is theoretically winning. And there is, I think, a huge difference. Let's say with the A pawn, I believe in case you would turn on table base right now, it would show you it is a draw. This is what is my guess. But I think Magnus is going to win this position quite easily.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked in a position like this if it's a draw or if it says something like checkmate in 48 moves. And if it says checkmate in 48 moves, that means that practically it's a draw because nobody's going to find the 48 perfect moves.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah. Okay, let's see what Magnus is, how Magnus is going to convert his advantage. He should try to get somehow the pawn to a7. In case he manages to get the pawn to a7, then I think he's very close to be winning objectively already. And of course he should try to keep his queen centralized. So how to get a7 and still remain with the queen in the center, Chris? Not an easy task, yeah?
Yeah, these endgames are a nightmare. And I guess playing against Magnus doesn't make it any better.
Yeah. Maybe there is something like queen to e3 now. I mean, looks a bit strange, but to give it a try. Or maybe queen to d3, actually. Queen d3. And let's see what Nepomniachtchi is going to play next. I don't know.
There's going to be a lot of checks.
There are going to be a lot of checks, definitely. King to e3. Checks. Okay, king to e3 by Magnus. So checks are coming now from Nepomniachtchi. Maybe queen to b3. I'm going to be the first check.
Yeah, generally, I suppose White's job here is to give lots of checks, as both sides will, and you'd like to trade the queens off. You'd like to be able to answer a black check with blocking with the queen and giving check.
Yeah,
it forces the queens off. If the pawn can advance, I guess that's generally good, but not if you get perpetualed.
Yes, Chris. I think in case Magnus manages to get his pawn to a7, he's going to win the game, but Nepomniachtchi is doing anything he can to avoid it. So he gets his king to f2. Now it's getting very interesting because Nepomniachtchi needs to find a perpetual check. He gives a check on b6, and Nepomniachtchi plays now extremely fast, actually. He plays super fast. Magnus is very low on time.
Yeah, he's gaining in confidence. I enjoy watching these endings a lot more in Rapid than in Classical. If this was a Classical game with like 60-second increment, they'd be playing for 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, this game would have taken quite a while. Yeah, I completely agree, Chris. So Nepomniachtchi is checking, and trying to get the pawn a6 in case the white king would go a couple of squares away from the black king, so there would be no mate any longer. Queen to f5. Maybe Nepomniachtchi is going to save it, Chris.
Yeah, maybe. The kings are on the same row, which is when you start having chances to block the check with the queen and give check yourself.
Yeah. King to e2, but there are no more checks. There are no more checks, Chris. In case check on the second, then queen to d2. In case check on b5, then we have this queen d3.
Yeah.
So Magnus is able now to get queen to d3, so there will be at least no more danger of losing the a6 pawn. Queen to d3, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about those Dvoretsky endgame books. I wish I'd paid more attention when I read them years ago, because this ending right here got, I think, a chapter or two. Mm-hmm. This is the typical queen and pawn endgame.
Yeah, but personally, Chris, I think there are only a couple of things to remember in such a position. That basically, for black, the best position of the black king is actually on h3 or h2. This is funny, but it is the best position for the black king on the whole board. h3 and h2. And usually with a white king, you're going towards b7. And black, of course, is giving check, 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 check. But usually with black, it is impossible to avoid the white pawn getting to a7. But after a7, you must be ready to give perpetual check. So
Yeah.
this is something that is important to remember about the queen endgames with the a pawn. And objectively, yes, it is a draw, but I think it is quite difficult to hold. I won once a very important game with the a pawn. So I have good memories about queen endgames with an extra a pawn.
The last pawn, somebody in chat asked, the last pawn move was pawn to a6 on move 73 for white, which means move 123, if there are no pawn moves or captures, would be the 50 move rule.
Yeah, this is going to take a while.
It's the one advantage of online chess is it makes 50 move rule claims a lot easier. I guess in a classical game they wouldn't be notating here and they'd have to figure things out.
Yes. And actually there have been always a lot of discussions, in the classical games, because I still remember many cases when some guy been claiming, is it 50 moves or is it not? Then you have to set up a new chessboard and then you move all the pieces. So it is a long procedure,
That's a thing of the past. The next generation won't even know that was a thing. That's gone forever. We have DGT boards and online chess, and it's all tracked.
Oh, 3 times repetition. Magnus run into 3 times repetition.
Oof.
Of course, it is an accident. He didn't want it. But we have a 3 times repetition. So Nippon
I wonder if the Chess24 online client tells you directly. That's another aspect that gets a lot easier if you're on online, is that it keeps track of threefold repetition claims.
Yeah. I don't know, Chris, but I think it should,
Yeah. I really should know exactly how it works on Lichess. I believe you just get the same draw button on Lichess if you get a threefold repetition. So Lichess kind of advises you, but not. There's not a big pop-up that says it's a draw, hit the button. You kind of have to know as well.
Yeah. But I think Magnus feels very pity himself, because in this position with the queen on d3, he could have tried to run with the king towards b7, and the game would take another 80 moves with some chances to win the game. I think it was pure accident that Magnus ran into this 3 times position repetition. So yeah, Nepomniachtchi a little bit lucky, a little bit lucky in the first round.
That's a nice result for Nepo based on the trouble he was in. It's I know it's certainly, I don't know how hard it is for Magnus, but it's certainly hard for me to keep track of exactly where the queens have been in an ending like this.
No, it's almost impossible, Chris. I mean, in case you're playing the game, you're focusing much more on the moves. You're not thinking, did I repeat this position once, twice, or 3 times? It is just impossible. Okay, so Wesley So and Anish Giri already made a draw. Chris, they've been so fast. It is a forced draw in the Grünfeld. And Wesley So made already a lot of draws in this kind of way. It's not his first draw.
Here's everything we were talking about. It's Anish Giri playing the Grünfeld. It's a highly theoretical line.
Yes. And Wesley So just forcing a draw in case we take a short look at this. Queen a5, bishop d2, queen take a2. So this is one of the main lines of Grünfeld. And actually Wesley So made, I think, a couple of draws in exactly the same way. I remember a game against Maxim Shilagraf. And I think there's been another game against Rajabov even. So Wesley So, a bit strange, Chris. Why he wants to make draws with a white color?
Yeah, well, he's ahead in the mini match. He won the first game, so I suppose 3 more draws would mean he advances. But still, it seems sort of a waste of a white game.
Yes, it's a bit strange because it was just the first game. We are not speaking about game 3. And in case Anish Giri clearly blundered, so Anish Giri is not in the top shape, so he has no confidence. This is basically the moment when you have excellent chances of putting your opponent under pressure. To force a draw with white, a bit strange decision by Wesley So. I'm a little bit surprised. But Chris, do you remember the tournament which actually Wesley So won, this online tournament of Magnus Carlsen, where from the last 7 games I think he played just 1. He made 6 draws straight out of the opening with white forcing draws, and his opponents been as well very happy to make a draw themselves with the white color. So he played like 1 game out of last 7, but this one that he played, he won an unbelievable game, very, very beautiful game. I forgot against who it was, some strong opponent. I forgot against.
Yeah, we were talking about Anish and Peter Leko and all the draw lords of various generations. That's the sort of thing that should get you the reputation as a draw lord, not playing a Naidorf, a super sharp theoretical Naidorf, and getting a good position and not being able to win it.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. This is true, Chris. I think when Giri been a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, maybe yes, he was, not feeling himself so self-confident in my opinion. Now he's much more self-confident, and before, yes, he been a bit shy, let's say, on trying to win the position sometimes. But right now Giri is pushing. It's just, I believe, his little minus or something that he might be doing a bit better to explore his nice positions. He's often having a nice position and he is not managing to get the full point out of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting psychological conundrum, because when you get this sort of position where you're very safe, where you're the only one that can win, I guess it's easy to get too obsessed with that and just, not find the very, very, very best moves, the moves that put your opponent under the most pressure. You just sort of fall in love with the idea that you can't lose, and then, what do you know? You get to a position that you didn't lose.
Yeah. To win a winning position is quite a hard task, because psychologically you just need to keep on playing the way you played before. So sometimes when you're having a better position, players are thinking, now we can win this position without calculating, without risking anything. But it is not the way it works. In case you have a better position, it just says that you have better chances, you have more possibilities of doing something. But it does not mean that now, without a calculation, having 100% everything under control, you are able to win the game. It's just not the case. So better position just gives you better opportunities, and you have to fight very hard still for the full point.
I think this is probably the reason that Magnus so famously does well in positions where he's a little bit better, these grindy positions, because he's able to keep his energy up and find the very best move in every position instead of just something that's safe.
Yes, Chris, I totally agree to you, because some people are saying Magnus is playing unbelievably strong in the end games. Of course, it is the truth, but how does it really come? I think it comes because, as you said, he has this unbelievable amount of energy, So in the end games, he can continue keeping his concentration, he's calculating still very precisely, and his opponents are starting slowly to decrease their calculational skills, their focus. So it feels like Magnus is just outplaying the guys, so he knows much more than the guys. I think it's basically not exactly the truth. Of course, he might know some things better, but there is no huge difference between the top players. Just Magnus is able to keep on pushing, to have his energy even when he plays for 6 hours straight, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most underrated part of a chess player's abilities. And I guess it's because it's hard to quantify, it's hard to work on. It's just concentration.
Yeah.
I think most players, maybe not most players, a lot of players, if they look back at their games and the mistakes they made, and they ask themselves, is this the sort of position where it was just too complicated for me and I missed something, or it has some idea that I don't know? did I miss it because of that, or did I miss it because I just lost my focus for a moment? It's something I should be able to find, and I didn't because my head wasn't in the game somehow. I think that decides a lot of chess games.
Definitely, Chris. I mean, the factor of energy is just so relevant when you're playing a chess game. You must have this big energy that you're ready to spend on the game. You must go 100%, yeah. If you are, and I think in general, chess is such a cruel game, yeah. In case you are playing a soccer game, your team is winning 5-0, there is a very little chance of losing this match. But in case you are playing a chess game, let's say you are having a winning position, just one mistake out of 40 moves, and you are gone, yeah. So it's a tough game, yeah. I think chess is a very brutal game, actually.
I always thought people like to compare chess to other sports, and generally the comparisons are very, very bad because the people making the comparisons don't know about chess. I always thought the best comparison from chess to another sport was boxing, because you can have a boxing match where one boxer is just clearly the better. They're just outboxing them for 7, 8, 9 rounds. And then the other one makes a little mistake and gets knocked out. And I've seen so many chess games like that.
Yes, for sure. It is.
You play 35 great moves. You're cruising. You're outplaying them everywhere, and then you miss one thing and you lose.
Yes,
it's cruel.
Very brutal. Chess is very, very brutal. And Chris, you can't imagine, in case you're a professional player, and I think it happens to all of us, how you're feeling yourself after this game. Yeah. It is a terrible feeling. I mean, it is just incredibly bad feeling. Very difficult to sleep the next evening, and
that's the other thing, is that you have to get up the next day and play another game often. So you have to find a way to pull yourself together.
Yes.
And it's tough. There's so many players that are not only can that happen in a game, but it can happen in a tournament too, where you're playing great in a tournament, and then you get one bad game and you just go to pieces.
Yes. No, psychologically, the chess tournament just takes so long, yeah. These are 10 days where you're working 12 hours every day. You are working together with your team, and it is just so difficult in case something happens that is very unpleasant, very unexpected, and it can turn the tournament completely upside down. And it happened to so many players, and I think this is why we see on the very top Caruana and Magnus. They are just so stable. Even after playing a bad game, even after having some bad luck, the next day they are playing great again. It is very difficult task psychologically.
Yeah, one of the most impressive moments for me, for Magnus, and he's had a few, was in the match with Karyakin. And it was, I think, a 12-game match.
Yes.
And then they would go to tie breaks. And in the 8th or 9th game or something, Magnus lost.
Yep.
And he only has a few games, and he has to win one or he loses his title. And, he won't get a chance to get it back for a few years. And Karyakin is not an easy player to beat. And he did it. And he was distraught, too. It wasn't like he's a totally, like soulless, bloodless, emotionless Vulcan. He was upset. I think that was when he stormed out of the press conference. Of course he's upset. Like, it's an upsetting game.
Yeah.
But he wasn't too upset because he shook it off and he won a game and he won the tie breaks and he's still world champion.
Yeah. This is true, Chris. Personally, when I played tournaments where Caruana has been participating, after the game of Caruana, in case you're looking at him, you're never sure he won, he lost, or he made a draw. Just impossible to see. The same reaction, absolutely the same reaction. So I think this makes him being really so stable, so stable to stay at the very top of the chess world. You must have this great dedication. You must be a hard worker. You must do the things right. And for so many years, these two guys, Carlsen and Caruana, dominating the chess world. So I think this is very special in the way they play chess. So stable. The guys are like half machines,
Yeah. No, and on the other end of that, there are lots of players in the history of chess who couldn't do that, and it probably cost them. I mean, players like Ivanchuk come to mind.
Yeah.
Who seemed to be just as talented as anybody in his generation, but didn't quite get as far as they did because he would go to pieces. Things would go badly, and they'd go really badly.
Yeah. I totally agree to you, Chris. But actually, about Ivanchuk, I think part of the way he played, actually part of that, it was a show. It was a show. I think many guys are seeing Ivanchuk like this kind of genius who is able to behave in a crazy way, to play unbelievably great games and then do something insane. I think it's not all truth, because I played him quite a decent amount of games against Ivanchuk. And I think part of what he's doing is actually a show. It is not real. He's quite a smart guy during the chess game. He's very practical, and through his image, he was allowed sort of doing things that nobody else could do. For example, in time troubles, sometimes he was not writing down his moves. So in case some other player would do it, immediately a referee would come and he will tell, okay, you need to write down the moves. And Ivanchuk, through his image of this kind of crazy genius, people said, okay, well, what to do? It's Ivanchuk.
Yeah.
And there been one time very funny accident. We played the world team. I forgot what it was. I think it was in Turkey. And suddenly, because we've been playing very focused, we hear a scream during the round. And I turned. I said, what happened? And it was actually a swearing in Russian. So I said, wow, what is it? And Ivanchuk swearing with very, very nasty words at the referee. So, okay, in case, let's say, you or me, we would have done it, we would be just disqualified for probably a year or something, yeah? But in case you are Ivanchuk, it's okay. So I think
there's a lot of little things like that happen.
Yes. So he had his bonuses. He had definitely his bonuses
the
through his
privileges
image
of a genius, I suppose.
Yes. Exactly. Okay, so Chris, now we have Nepomniachtchi with white starting e4. Magnus Carlsen goes on by playing e5. Let's see if we have Berlin or we have this bishop c5 Spanish.
The Anish Giri Wesley So game is also starting right now, so I guess we're going to be just permanently one game ahead on one match here.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anish Giri needs to try something. He's white. Game number 3. Very interesting. Magnus Carlsen is choosing to play the open Spanish. Very interesting. Usually Magnus is not playing the open Spanish, so he is not taking on e4. And maybe he's a little bit scared of the preparation of Nepomniachtchi, because he sees Nepomniachtchi is really well prepared, and he wanted to surprise him a little bit. So he goes on by playing this open Spanish line. It is still, of course, theory. We have now, after d4, knight b3 as the main move of the theory. Let's see if Nepomniachtchi is going for knight b3. I guess he will, because there are not that many options. There is another option of taking on d4, but according to the theory, it leads just to an equal position. Yes, we have knight b3, and we have d takes c3 by Magnus Carlsen, because the usual move is d3. So instead of d takes c3, d3 is the main one, and d takes c3, very interesting. I don't remember I ever saw the move d takes c3.
Well, that's the new move. I guess that's what he was planning to pull out here.
Probably, yeah. Now we're going to see the idea of d takes c3, b takes c3. He goes for the endgame against Nepomniachtchi. Usually not a bad choice to play endgame against Nepomniachtchi. I think Nepomniachtchi is much better with the queens on the board than without queens. So, but still, why no one is playing d takes c3? So I guess the endgame is evaluated as better for white, but maybe Magnus shows us something new.
It doesn't look so crazy to me.
Well, Chris, it is of course not crazy, but maybe some advantage for white, yeah, because you have this bishop e4 opportunity, not so pleasant. and knight d4 coming somewhere. So
wow, this knight a4 move looks a little strange. Crazy. I was about to call it crazy, but that's probably too dramatic. But
let's see. Let's see if Nepomniachtchi is going for this knight d4, bishop e4. I don't know, Chris. From the first view, it looks better for white. Because you have this knight d4 idea and bishop e4 idea, and yeah, bishop e4, bishop e4 played, bishop d7 played at tempo by Magnus Carlsen. Chris, wow, I think it looks so scary, but
are we going to defend the c3 pawn, or is that just going to be the price of doing business? And I don't think you can take it if you play some other move. I don't know, Chris.
Maybe bishop d2, bishop e1 might be a nice idea. Why not? Bishop d2, bishop e1 to be very safe, but they might be something more. For example, I think something like e6 is a possibility as well, yeah? Because we're gaining this idea of getting knight e5 somewhere as well. Rook take d7 might work somewhere, so very many different opportunities for Nepomniachtchi right now. Okay, Magnus seems to be in his preparation, so well, let's see. Let us go to Anish Giri against Wesley. So Anish needs to win his game, and we have the Berlin with d3, bishop c5, Anish takes on c6, short castle, knight d7, c3, a5. Very interesting, yeah, that Wesley so continues with his a5 move, because usually the short castle is the main continuation after c3. So a5 by Wesley Son. We have this d4, bishop d6, rook e1. Okay, I think both players are still in their handbook, and
yeah, it looks similar to the what was it, the first game?
Yes.
The same opening. I mean, it was a Berlin, not exact Berlin with d3, not exactly the same opening.
But very similar, yeah, I agree, very similar. So now it is quite an interesting moment after bishop g5. What do you, Chris? What are you playing? You're playing f6, you're playing queen e8, or you're playing bishop e7? I think all is possible.
Instinctively, I don't want to play f6 to open that line to my king, but it might not matter. I think bishop e7 is what I would play.
So you would change.
I'm not super confident about that.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I think all the moves are passable. Yeah, I think even f6 is quite a decent choice as well. Usually f6 and bishop h4 and bishop g4, so it could be possible for black. Bishop e7 is very possible as well, but I think white will take on e7 and maybe try something with h3, not to give this bishop g4 opportunity, and knight g3 next. And the question is, it might be a little better for white, minimal better, not much, but maybe a little bit better. And queen e8, I think, is possible as well. Yeah, so we're avoiding this move f6, and I think the move e5 is not dangerous here because we're gaining the d5 square after white plays e5. So I don't know, Chris, what Wesley So is going to play after bishop g5. Let's see. My tip is maybe f6, but I am not sure.
He's thinking quite a bit here. He's about 2 minutes in now.
Yeah, because you have these three choices and they're approximately even. Yeah, so very hard to decide what actually you're playing next, because in case you have just one choice, you're just playing the move. Yeah, it's easy. But
even if it's bad.
Even if it's bad, yeah. I mean, no choice is no choice. But in case you have these three different options and you're thinking, well, it looks like everything is okay. What should I play now? So you're taking your time, yeah. Quite common for these complicated positions. Jan Nepomniachtchi against Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, Jan Nepomniachtchi is taking his time, which is quite normal because he's thinking, well, maybe I should try to beat Magnus Carlsen with something like e6. On the other hand, it is very obvious that Magnus been checking this position, so you're playing against an engine. And in case you're not playing e6, you might try to play bishop d2, bishop e1. It is a slow play, but most probably you are not going to be better. Tough decision for Jan Nepomniachtchi, because he knows he should be better somehow, but he is afraid. He is afraid to take the wrong path.
Yeah, this is the typical dilemma where how much do you trust your opponent's preparation? Because
yeah.
Magnus is way up, and Magnus is way up on the clock, so clearly he's been looking at it.
Nepomniachtchi is forcing a draw with rook d7
Draw.
and perpetual check.
Well, I guess we have the answer to how much he trusts his preparation. He trusts it quite a bit.
Yes. He too much respect, I think, Chris. Magnus is playing clearly a sideline. I mean, d takes c3. There must be a reason why the top guys are not taking on c3. So it is very obvious for Nepomniachtchi there should be a way of getting a better position. So I think you need sort of take a decision on the board. How much do you trust yourself? Yeah, so you must trust in your calculation. And Nepomniachtchi shows huge respect towards Magnus Carlsen for repeating the moves instantly.
That sort of thing. That sort of thing would hurt my pride. I mean, I guess a practical decision is a practical decision, but to just admit openly, I can't. I don't trust myself versus your preparation. I'd rather hit the eject button in the game.
Yeah.
Try again.
Yeah, this is what I meant, Chris. I think a lot of players are having huge respect, in front of Magnus Carlsen, because I'm sure in case Nepomniachtchi would play somebody else, not Magnus, he would continue. He would try to do something. He would try to find something. And what is also a sign that Nepomniachtchi is even not trying to find anything, because just check his time. He still has 11 minutes left. So he could think for at least another 5 minutes trying to find something, but he just doesn't care. He sees rook take d7 leads to a draw, so he is forcing a draw.
Well, good job to Magnus's seconds there, and Magnus's preparation in general. It's
yes.
Peter Heine Nielsen or whoever is earning their money because it got a free half point.
Yes. But I think Chris, Peter Heine is not the guy for the analysis. I think he's more like a coordinator. I think Freyssinet is working full time on the openings for Magnus, and I think he has a lot of guys who are working partly for him. Maybe not the full time, but he's taking them time to time. And actually, I think Dubov, been working for Magnus even for some time.
I see people in the Lichess chat saying a draw with Magnus is fine. I understand the sentiment, but it's not fine if you want to win the match. You do eventually need to beat him.
Yeah.
And this could have been the game where you did it.
Yes, definitely. And also, Chris, I think that many do not understand that the difference between Magnus Carlsen and, for example, Nepomniachtchi is not that big,
Sure, I mean, he's beaten him
so
before.
small.
It's not crazy to beat him.
Yes. It's like you're running, let's say, 100 meters, 9.6. Your name is Usain Bolt, and you are a megastar. And somebody else is running 9.7, and basically you are not even top 3. So we have quite similar difference in chess. Chess-wise, yes, Magnus Carlsen is the best player of the world, but the difference between Jan Nepomniachtchi is not that huge. It is just very, very small, and maybe even this difference is something that we're seeing now. Nepomniachtchi does not believe that he can beat Magnus Carlsen in an unknown position. And I'm quite sure in case Magnus would be white here, Nepomniachtchi would not have this fast draw. I'm quite sure in that.
Yeah, Magnus's pride, if nothing else, would prevent him from giving a free half point.
Yes. I agree to you, Chris. Anish Giri, and let's take a look what actually Wesley So played after bishop g5. Yes, he did play f6. So f6, bishop h4, bishop g4 as expected, h3, bishop h5, queen d3, queen d7, g4 by Anish Giri. Anish Giri is pushing. Chris, you saw Anish Giri h3 g4. He's going for it.
In the last game, it was black pushing the kingside pawns, and now it's white. That's totally standard in this opening, I guess.
I'm not so sure that g4 is so standard. I think I think Anish, he understands he needs to win this game or the match is basically over, because Wesley So is just so solid with the white color. He lost the first game with white. He lost it with very, unluckily, or I don't know how to call it. He had a nice position. And now Anish, he feels or he wins it, or he needs to prepare for tomorrow.
Yeah, he's got nothing to lose really in this game. He's got to come away with the point.
And personally, Chris, I don't like this move g4. Maybe Anish knows it better, but it looks so strange. You have the bishop on g6, queen on d3. Now we have this knight d5 move by Wesley, so the knight is getting to f4. The h3 pawn is weak. Why should it be so great for white? I think Wesley So might just continue with knight f4, queen f1, h5 or something, or just rook e8. We have a great knight on f4.
That knight on f4 is the greatest comeback story of all time. If you go back a few moves and watch it just dead as
b6,
on b6, and it somehow warps over to f4, that is the luckiest knight of all time right there.
Yeah, we have a great knight on f4, and I think Anish Giri is not too happy with his position. At least I don't see a reason why he should be very happy here. I
don't imagine the plan when he played g4 was for the black knight to come over to f4.
Definitely not, definitely. In case we go back to this place where Anish played the move g4, it's a bit strange, because usually with white you want to play bishop g3 in such positions to change the bishop on d6 in case you can. So g4, very, very risky. You're opening your king, and I think he just underestimated the move knight d5, I think. So Anish is not in perfect shape today. Already for the second time he's missing something, like in the first game. So maybe Anish is a bit tired or something else. Wesley So is taking on f5. Very interesting that he takes on e5 instantly, because I thought he might be able to play h5 somewhere first. Maybe he wants to go with g6. What do you think, Chris? G6 is something possible, or?
Yeah, it is a little strange to take that knight, but maybe it simplifies things a little bit in terms of his calculation. I don't know.
Let's see. G6. Yeah, he plays G6. So the idea of taking on F5 is indeed to play G6. Otherwise, it would make not so great sense. So we have G6 on the board. Now Anish Giri needs to think, or he can do something now, or Wesley So is just doing great here, because G take F5 is coming. So this is sort of unavoidable. So maybe Anish Giri will try to play king h1. So let's say king h1. And after taking on f5 to try with e5 to get some counterplay done. Maybe. I don't know.
Bishop g3.
Bishop g3 played. Okay, bishop g3, knight to h5. The knight is jumping everywhere, yeah? b6, d5, f4, h5.
That knight has gone on quite the odyssey, yes.
Yeah, the knight is everywhere. Unstoppable. The knight is... Yeah, but still Anish Giri has a direct problem to face. Yeah, there is g take f5 coming next. So what are you doing against g take f5? In case he takes on d6, there is cd. So it helps a bit for the black's pawn structure.
Yeah, I think that, so, okay, the match situation is that Anish has two games. He has this game and one more, and he needs to win one of them because he lost previously. And it's a very, very dangerous psychological predicament, because you can go in with the idea, I have to win. And instead of looking for good moves, you're looking for winning moves. Mm-hmm. And, the nature of chess is that you don't always have winning moves. And if you go in with that mindset, you might not find good moves.
That can easily happen, of course, Chris, but we are speaking of a top professional, yeah? So Giri is not a guy who plays who is finds himself first time in this sort of situation. Yeah. So usually these top players are facing this kind of problems quite well, because this is part of the job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Just Gear is maybe a bit tired. Yeah, because he has a lot of games. Yeah, the guys has played already 15 games plus another 8 games. Yeah, so they have played 23 games so far. It makes you tired. 23 games in rapid chess. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, I think I always felt like five rapid games was more tiring than one classical game that takes just as long.
Definitely.
You sort of have to reset every time, and you're looking at so many different positions, and you don't have time to think, and you're in a lot more time pressure. If you play a classical game, the time pressure is sort of only limited to that one game. But if you play 5 games, you can have 5 time scrambles, and
Definitely.
you have to overclock your brain 5 times to keep up.
Yes, I totally agree to you, Chris. I think maybe we can compare 2 or 3 rapid games to one classical game, but not 5. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I suppose they wouldn't play quite that many in one day. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
There's some American Open tournaments where they play crazy amounts of games in one day. I get the impression the Europeans don't do that, and good for the Europeans, you shouldn't.
There is one huge event here in Europe, the Grenke Chess Classics. Maybe you have heard about it. It's one of the biggest open events, so over 2,000 people participating in it. And actually, the first game is starting on 7 p.m. 7 p.m. is round 1. And the next day you have round 2 and round 3. So you're almost playing 3 classical games within 24 hours.
That's rough. Yeah, American crazy. Open tournaments do that a lot, and it's brutal. I've seen tournaments that play 3 classical games in one day, and they're usually slightly faster classical games, but not that fast. They're an hour game or like hour and a half with a second time control. So very long games. Absolutely brutal playing 3 of them in the same day.
Yeah, you're so exhausted. I think I played maybe 10 editions of Grenke Chess Classics, because the organizer is the boss of my chess club of Baden-Baden in the Bundesliga. So I've been participating in each of these events. You are so exhausted after the 9th round. You are just completely done. Yeah, completely done. It feels like just 5 days. It has been just 5 days, but you are feeling you need 1 month of break. Yeah, you cannot watch the chess pieces any longer. It is so hard to play this double round, and the time controls are usually, I think, 2 hours for 40 moves, and then you're getting another half an hour. So you're playing this 5-hour games, and usually you play at least 4.5 hours, and there's almost no break between the rounds. So it is crazy. Yeah, it makes you so tired.
Yeah.
Very, very tough. Okay, so let's take a look at the position. So you think, Chris, Anish Giri has a chance, or do you still think that Wesley?
Yeah, I mean, I would still take black, but he's not dead or anything. It's still a chess game.
No, definitely. Yeah. The game goes on. I think Wesley So will take the bishop on g3 at some time. Just he is deciding to take it with a knight or to take it with a bishop. Personally, I would take it with a knight. But maybe I'm wrong. Because I think in case, let's say, knight take g3, f take g3, just rook a e8. So I want to be quite safe. And I think the position of black is perfectly fine. I don't think black has something to worry about. We have the pawn on e4 that might get theoretically weak. In case of e5, it's not so dangerous. Black has quite decent pawn structure. So I think it's possible to take on g3 with a knight, and the position of Wesley So is okay, in my opinion.
Yep, this is Anish's last white game.
Exactly, yeah. Anish needs to win it.
He'll be wanting to win, but it's not the end if he loses. He gets one more chance with black.
But it's very difficult against Wesley So with black. Wesley is just so safe with white. And I think in case I would have a choice to play, for example, Magnus Carlsen with black, and I have to win the game, or I play Wesley So and I have to win the game, I will prefer to play Magnus. Because to beat, because Magnus, he is quite ambitious, yeah. So at some moment he
Yeah.
might try even to beat you in case he needs a draw. but
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Wesley, he is merciless, yeah. He just plays for a draw. He doesn't care if he has a knight up, queen up. It does not matter. A draw is enough. So he is just making this draw and very focused on the result. And to beat Wesley So with black, it's so tough.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to play a game as black where you have to win. I mean, in
Definitely.
theory, Anish plays all these super sharp openings, the Grunfeld, the Naidorf, but those openings usually have ways for white to chicken out and sort of kill the game.
Exactly, as we
You
saw
don't
in the
mind because
second
you're
game.
playing black,
Yeah.
but not if you have to win the game.
No, but this is what we saw, Chris, in the second game between Wesley So and Anish Giri, yeah, when Wesley So forced a draw in the Grunfeld.
Yep. No, yeah, and a super sharp theoretical line, straight to a draw.
Straight to a draw, yeah. There are a lot of lines in Grunfeld, there are a lot of lines in Naidorf, where in case you want to make a draw with white, you're just forcing this draw. So, yeah. Let's see. But still, Anish Giri is still fighting. He has a lot of time. He has 10 minutes on the clock, and Wesley So is down to 7. So, yeah, let's see.
It's interesting. You said you were gonna take with the knight on g3, and he took with the bishop.
He took with the bishop, yeah.
Leaving the knight on h5. What do you think about this knight on h5? It's pressuring g3, but it's also kind of trapped on the side of the board.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. I don't know. I would prefer to take with a knight. It feels somehow more natural, yeah. But Wesley So, maybe he's hoping for something like f5 at some moment, yeah. That you have f5, f4 coming. On the other hand, it's very tricky to get f5 working, yeah, because knight g5 is possible. There is somewhere e5 coming at f5. Honestly speaking, I don't know. I don't know why he took with the bishop on g3. Feels a little bit strange to me, and I believe maybe Anish Giri will try to go for the full point, yeah? So
It will be interesting to follow the history of the future, I guess I should say, of this knight on h5 and see if it ends up pressuring g3 or being stuck on the side of the board.
yes, because the knight has been already everywhere, yeah? So let's see if the knight survives till the end of the game. It's gonna be an interesting thing, because I think this is actually the g8 knight, no? That we're having now on...
Oh boy. Yeah, it was on b6.
Yes, it
And then
came
went
from
to d5
g8
and f4.
initially. A long road,
Wow.
a long road, yeah. And Magnus
That's
Carlsen,
a large
he's...
percentage of his moves with that knight. Yep.
Indeed. And Magnus Carlsen, with white now, the game has begun, and we have once again this opening with b5. So we have this Vienna with b5. This time Magnus Carlsen continues with the e5, of course, the most principal line. And let's see. Now we are playing computer versus computer. So first time Magnus probably needed some time to repeat his lines, and now he had this break of 15 minutes where maybe he has checked. And let's go. Magnus said to Nepomniachtchi, let's go, computer versus computer. Let's see who has a better one. And Nepomniachtchi is thinking both players with 16 minutes on the clock, so seems like they're still in their lines. The idea of white is to get the queen over f4 to g4, which is quite unpleasant for black. In case the white queen reaches g4, then we have this pressure on the g7 pawn somewhere. In case black castle short, there is bishop to h6. Nepomniachtchi needs to be very careful to avoid this queen f4, queen g4. Let's see what Nepomniachtchi is going to play next for black. I think we have this typical idea of playing knight b4, knight d5. Chris, do you like it? Knight b4, knight d5? Yeah, Nepomniachtchi plays it.
The thing that occurs to me is that no one's allowed to say that Magnus doesn't play theoretical openings anymore. That's just against the rules from now on. He gets the free half point in the last game, and this position is pretty theoretical.
No, he's... Chris, as I told you, Magnus knows exactly what he's doing in the openings.
Yeah.
It might look like he is waking up and deciding, but in fact, no. In fact, it was. I don't want to tell a name, but I've been speaking to one of the top guys, and actually, he's been quite convinced that Magnus has the best preparation in the world.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yes, and I've been also not to 100% convinced, because I said, okay, Magnus has a good preparation. It's obvious, but does he has the best preparation in the world? And the guy been very, very insisting on that he really does. It might not look like that, but in fact, he is doing very decent in the openings, and he knows exactly what to do, when to do, what are the major plans, what are the major ideas. So it does not come without working on the openings. So, yeah. Magnus is, he's world champion, Chris. He knows everything. He does everything.
These structures were always so interesting to me with the two C pawns for black, because it looks at a glance so ugly. It looks like doubled pawns on an open file. It looks like they should be horrendously weak, but it doesn't seem to actually work out that way very often.
We have, of course, I mean, the pawns are weak, but we have this beautiful square on d5 and bishop b7, and as we see now, queen c6. So it is all about the knight on d5. I think that's a key play for black. In case we can keep the knight on d5, maybe long castle will be possible as well. Let's see. But it's very funny, actually, the last move of Magnus, rook e1. Can you imagine to play rook e1 without knowing exactly what you're doing? An impossible move, yeah? It is just impossible to play rook e1 in case you are not in your preparation.
This is the sort of moment where the two players are like looking at each other in the eyes, across the board, if they were doing it, trying to figure out, is this prep or is this... I mean, it must be if he's playing in,
of course, to 100%. I mean, how to get this idea? We have move 11, rook to d1, and then we have move 15, rook to e1. It makes not much sense, but yeah. Still, both of the guys are still in their preparation. We have Nepomniachtchi playing f5, which is quite logical. He wants to open his play on the king side. And Magnus taking and playing queen e2 at tempo. So I think, as you said, Magnus is a very ambitious guy. He maybe wants to prove to Nepomniachtchi, okay, you are working, but still you have a long way to go, yeah?
Yeah. Well, it's a very sharp game, at least. We have a very unbalanced game to look forward to.
Yeah, I think a very unbalanced position. Actually, it's so difficult to estimate who is actually doing better here, because the position of black is looking nice. We have this bishop b7, queen c6. Everything is looking direction g2. The next move of black might be rook 8, g8. So we have even more pressure on the g file. And, it looks quite scary for white, actually. I don't know. In case I would choose...
I was talking about the black pawn structure looking bad, and it's only gotten worse since then. There's so many isolated pawns and so many pawn islands. None of it really matters. Like, the piece play is more important.
Yeah. Maybe Chris, but we're gonna see. I mean, definitely it matters. I mean, in case Magnus manages to defend, to stabilize, let's say to get g3, bishop d2, rook c1, I think white is going to be better. But it takes a while. It takes a while to stabilize. There is always opportunity for black of getting f5, then this bishop b7, queen c6 are getting even stronger. So... very dynamic position, I think. Let us take a look maybe at Anish Giri against Wesley So. Oh, a lot of changes. We have the king of Wesley So on f6. What is doing Wesley So's king on f6? I think we've been not paying attention for a couple of moves. So we saw move 25, rook ad1, rook e8 by Wesley So, and this bishop g3, fg. Okay, queen d6, king h2, rook e7, rook d2, Wesley So is king to g7, he gets e5 push, queen d7, rook e4. Yeah, Giri is clearly taking over. Now there is g4 threat, so the knight on h5 finally will find his master. the pawn on g3. Queen to d5. He takes on f6, king f6. Wow. Chris, I think it's completely lost, no?
Yeah, generally, with a board full of pieces, if one of the kings is on f6, there's a problem, and I don't think this position is any exception.
I think it's Giri is completely winning. Great success for Anish Giri. Yeah, we did not expect it. That
Yeah, he was having some trouble. He did great.
out of nowhere, it looked like Wesley So has a nice position, and then suddenly Anish Giri just outplays Wesley, and I think is having now a great position. Even this move Rook G5 looks a bit strange. Yeah, why to play Rook G5?
There's so many funny looking pieces here. The king wandering out to the middle of the board, the rook sort of trapping itself on G5.
I think Anish Giri, he wants to get his knight to E5, but still, why to play Rook G5 immediately? I don't know. Of course, White is still doing much better, but maybe Anish just thinks he's instantly winning with a move Knight E5 next. Otherwise,
Pretty good.
Otherwise, Rook G5 is making no sense. So Knight E5, Knight H4. Okay, very similar. Knight to H4. There is idea of taking on G6 and Knight F5 as well.
Oof, how do you defend? This is not easy.
Rook E6, yeah, Rook E6 is sort of a must. Rook E6, okay, Giri might play Knight F5, but maybe there's even something better than that.
Looks like Knight F5 wins the exchange at least, but you can maybe do better.
Maybe there is something better. Yeah, but Giri seems to be doing very well. I think it's going to be 1.5, and then the last game. Maybe it's sort of a little bit of punishment for Wesley So for making this forced draw in the Grunfeld.
Yeah.
By the way, last tournament was very funny when Nakamura was playing this opposite color bishop endgame for 1,000 moves. Yeah, do you remember, Chris?
No, tell me about it.
Nakamura just had position with opposite color bishop, and he played it forever. He played it just forever, and I think it was a tournament from not from Magnus, but from maybe chess.com or something. They organize this tournament, and there are these matches, yes, which goes first. I think 1.5 hours they're playing 5 minutes, and 1 hour they play 3 minutes, and then they play bullet. So
yeah.
To gain some time, to win some time, Nakamura been playing, I don't know, 200 something moves, opposite color bishop position, just opposite color, nothing. Yeah? I mean, like 0 chances of winning. And as a little punishment, he lost immediately his next game. So maybe this is also a little bit of punishment for Wesley So for...
I always wonder what's happening when I see that. When I see a game that is just some very trivial ending, and one of the players just won't take the draw. I guess you could do that to make time, to like give yourself a little break, if you find that sort of thing relaxing. It could also be some weird like ego thing where you're sort of hitting the other player over the head, not letting them finish the game.
Well, I don't know, Chris. I think before online chess. Something like this been basically not happening.
Yeah.
I do not remember anyone. Okay, I do remember just one incident. It was in the game Leko and Kramnik. When Kramnik played for 50 moves rook against bishop. And in the end, because they played without increment, in the end he managed even to flag Leko. And it was a huge scandal. It was a huge scandal that, it's very unsportive behavior and so on and so on and so on. So I do not remember many cases where two guys been sitting in front of each other and played opposite color position for 200 moves. Actually, a very interesting situation. Giri is not taking the knight on h5. Why he is not taking the knight on h5? Rook take h5. Maybe there is queen e7 or something, yeah? Or queen to d1. Maybe queen to d1, yeah? With the idea of playing rook e2. So there is rook f5 easily winning. Why?
Interesting.
But rook f5 is possible. Why Giri didn't take on h5? It's so strange.
There must be something. I can't imagine he would.
But
Or he thought he saw something at least.
maybe queen to d3 to avoid to avoid rook f5. Queen d3, and still it looks somehow it should be winning with a rook up, but maybe not that simple. Yeah, queen d3 and rook e2 to follow next.
Yeah. I think we have the answer to the question earlier of whether that knight would be putting pressure on g3 or if it would be stranded. I think it's stranded. I think we have the verdict on it.
Not yet, Chris, because the knight is still alive. And the game goes on. So the knight on h5 is still there, and actually Wesley saw now with rook e3, rook d3 is having again some chances. It is not that simple any longer. The pressure on g3 is still there. The knight might get back to f6 in case Wesley needs. So yeah, the game is far from over. I think if Wesley will manage to change his queens now, the game might be even closer to a draw, because we have this beautiful rook on d3. The rook might go to b3. b2 is sort of a weakness. Then the black pawn starts to roll, and the things are far from over. Not that obvious any longer. Giri been completely winning, and again Wesley shows amazing resistance. Great resilience by Wesley.
Wow.
Yeah, Wesley is a big fighter, and what I also felt many times about Wesley, he has basically no emotions almost.
Yeah.
Almost zero emotions. It is so strange, yeah, because it is so difficult to play a player where you see almost zero emotions. He's losing, he's winning, he's making a draw. Always the same, yeah, always the same. And of course, it gives him big advantages, yeah, in comparison to emotional players. For example, Nakamura, he's very emotional. So
Yes.
sometimes he plays great, but sometimes he is just angry. Yeah, you feel the guy is angry. So
Yeah.
and Wesley is always cool, always very practical, and even in a lost position, some guys might panic or might do something. Wesley just keeps cool, taking the pawn on g3, king h6. Okay, no problem. The king has been already on f6. Now it's on h6. Makes no difference.
No, I remember at a Sinkfield Cup a few years ago, Wesley was playing and having a terrible tournament. He was at -3 or something going into the last few rounds. And I don't know exactly how it works in St. Louis, but generally if a player is having a bad tournament or they lost a game, they don't have to go do the interview, because, usually they go to the studio and do an interview with the commentators afterwards. And in one of these tournaments where he was having a terrible event, he did the interview after another heartbreaking game that he lost. I was very surprised at, first of all, that he did the interview at all. And second of all, he didn't seem too upset. They asked him about it, and he said, yeah, what are you going to do? I got to, get up tomorrow and play another game. I got to head to the next event and try to play better there. I believed him. He's either, a very controlled person emotionally, or he's the, greatest actor of all time, because I totally believed it.
No, but I think he's not acting. He sees the things the way he says. I don't think Wesley So is acting a lot. I think he's quite honest in his comments.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Just he doesn't go to pieces if things are bad.
Yes.
He's able to shake it off and say today wasn't my day. Oh well, we'll try again.
Yes, definitely, Chris. And in case we're coming back to this game, the knight from b6 is now already on g3, and yeah, the knight is going nowhere. We have the queen on d6, we have the rook on d3. So I think maybe Giri actually missed his chances, and in case Giri continues in the way he does, he might even lose the game. Rook g2. Is there king h4? King h4.
Oof. I regret everything I said about that night.
After king h4, what is the idea of Anish Giri? Because king h4 and we have rook h7 check probably. Knight goes back to h5 and rook g4 mate. Oh, king h4 is losing. Oof. Yeah, king h4 is This is changing a lot. So rook g2, king h4 is not possible. Let's see.
Wow, that king coming from f6 is leading the attack, apparently.
Yeah, Wesley So has all his pieces inside the game. King is a strong piece.
Yeah, you hear chess coaches say sometimes that when you're making an attack, it's it's a numbers game. So if you have more pieces on that side of the board, you have a better chance of your attack succeeding.
Yeah.
Black has a lot of pieces over there on the king side. He has a rook, a queen, a knight, and a king.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. So maybe something like rook e3 is possible. Of course, it needs to be calculated. I'm not 100% sure that Black is able to get rook to e3, but maybe rook e3, but there might be something like rook f7 then, yeah. Still a very complex position, of course. Difficult to give a precise estimation, but Wesley So needs to find now something. Maybe we take a short look at Magnus Carlsen, at our world champion, and we saw last the position after queen to e2. Now Nepomniachtchi with king to b8, Magnus bishop d2. Okay, getting his pieces into the game. This is what we've been also speaking about, Chris. Bishop d2, rook c1. In case Magnus managed to get his pieces inside the game, it should be a little better for white. So now the pieces are inside the game. Bishop d6, g3, f5. Okay, it's getting very sharp. It's getting very, very sharp. Nepomniachtchi is going to push for the white king. There is f4 coming, knight f4 coming, the bishop on b7, queen c6, looking direction h1. Chris, do you like personally such positions with white or with black? You are a guy to defend something or to attack?
Black. I'd take black any day of the week. It wouldn't surprise me to see, the computer say white's doing very well, but like you said, there's going to be a lot of activity. White's going to have to defend a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the one finding attacking moves instead of defending moves, personally.
Yeah. Yes. I think I would take as well the black color, in case, of course, black is not doing too bad.
Yeah.
Which it might be that actually Nepomniachtchi is doing now very bad, because the e6 pawn is hanging, and it's not that obvious to see what is the next move of black, because with white you are having now a bishop pair. e6 is so weak. There is b3 coming, there is bishop a5 coming, so I don't know, maybe black is doing already very bad actually. If there is nothing that Nepomniachtchi is able to do concretely, I mean immediately, it should be something instant, I think Magnus is having a clearly better position.
Yeah, I'm suddenly not so confident. I remember talking all that trash about the knight on h5 in the other game, and then it became the star piece. Probably after I've said all that, Magnus is just going to defend for 5 or 6 moves and be completely winning easily.
Maybe Chris, but now I like more the position of Magnus, because this bishop d6 move by Nepo, I don't know, to give away the bishop, it feels I don't know, it feels somehow strange, no? You have a nice bishop, you give it away. Maybe there's nothing better, but still, to play bishop d6, it feels a bit strange. I think Magnus is going to continue somewhere with b3. I believe b3 might be quite strong. I don't know if immediately b3 or maybe something positionally first.
That's a pin. That we were talking about that pawn being weak earlier.
Yeah.
I guess it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very dangerous. And Anish Giri. Let's go back to Anish Giri. Anish Giri won. So after rook to g2, Wesley So indeed continued with the move rook to e3, but there is rook f7. Okay, we thought about it, that it might be very dangerous for black. Queen to f1 and rook, queen to d1, sorry, and rook to f1. Yeah, very nice position of the rook on g2. And yeah, Giri wins. Okay, Giri is back.
Apparently, you can't put your king on f6 after all. Apparently, there are consequences for that. It's good to know that you still can't run out into the middle of the board with your king.
Yeah. Still, the knight survived. The knight survived till the very end, but yeah, Wesley So does not survive the game. And great win by Anish Giri, and I think such an important win. And I think also Anish will have to admit that he been a bit lucky. I think he just missed in the opening this knight d5 move, and I don't know why Wesley took on f5. I didn't like it. I still don't like to take on f5 instantly. I think there is no reason to take on f5 so fast. I think Wesley So wanted this idea of g6. He wanted too much, too fast, too much. I think in case he would have continued just with rook e8 or something, in my opinion, the position of black is nice. And after, yeah, Giri was a nice game. Nice game all in all.
Yeah, we're even now. We have some chances of tiebreak now.
Yes, and it's interesting if Wesley So in the game 4 is going once again for a forced draw, or he is going to fight for a win in the match. What do you think, Chris?
I predict another a repeat of the second game.
You think so?
I think Anish is going to play some super trendy, super theoretical line, and it'll be a quick draw with both players having not played any moves themselves.
Yeah, you think so? You think it's going to be such a boring game, Chris?
I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's the most exciting prediction I could make. So I don't know. I never. So okay, from like a what do you call it? A game theory perspective. Should you draw the last game of a rapid match that will result in a blitz tiebreaker? You know, I'm reminded of the World Championship match with I think it was where the very last game was nothing. It was, you know, they traded off the pieces as quickly as they could.
Yeah.
I believe Magnus had white, so it was Magnus that was sacrificing the white game.
Yeah.
And I guess he would tell you, I'm a better, you know, rapid player, so I want to play rapid games. And he did great in the rapid tiebreak, so I guess you can't argue.
Exactly, yeah. But I think in case of Magnus and Caruana, I think we have two extremes, because Caruana is basically a classical player. Caruana is doing much worse in rapid and in blitz. So
yeah.
In case we take a player, let's say like in the match So and Giri, I think the difference between them in rapid chess and blitz chess is not that significant as between, let's say, Magnus Carlsen and Caruana. In case Caruana is more or less on the same level in a classical chess, the difference in blitz chess and rapid chess between Magnus and Caruana is enormous. Caruana is number 2 in classical chess, but maybe in rapid chess and in blitz chess he is just top 10. So he is not the best in the world. And of course it makes a huge difference. So Magnus been very confident about that his advantage in rapid and blitz chess is quite serious. In the case of Anish Giri, Wesley So, I don't know, Chris. I don't think, let's say, Wesley So is estimating that he's an absolute killer in the blitz chess, and he should try to force a draw now with white. I don't think
I guess they don't play. Am I correct that they don't play tie breaks today?
Tomorrow another 4 games, and only afterwards is a tiebreak eventually.
So if the 4th game is drawn, it's a half point in the match score, and that's it for today, right?
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure. It depends on Wesley. Maybe he feels a bit upset about his lost game, and he just wants to recover, so he will force a draw. Or maybe he will be motivated to fight, yeah? Who knows? And interesting, in the Magnus game against Nepomniachtchi now, Magnus plays this move knight h4. I'm not sure if this actually been intended, because after knight h4, queen b5, Magnus been thinking for a very long time and is playing now the rook to b1.
What's to b1? Is that where the rook wants to be?
Not really, but I think he found nothing better. So maybe this move knight h4 been actually not the best. And Nepomniachtchi is now with a lot of time on the clock. Still, he plays very fast. Nepo is so fast. He plays his queen b3, which is pretty logical. So maybe queen d1 now by Magnus, because to reach an endgame, you have a bishop pair with white. is usually something nice. So let's see if Magnus plays queen to d1, maybe queen to f3, but I don't know. I think I would have played queen to d1.
The prospects of that rook on b1 have fallen dramatically in a few moves. A moment ago, it was pinning the pawn on c4 against the queen. And since then, it's had to embarrassingly slide over to b1 to stare at its own pawn. I don't think that was the plan.
No, probably not. But okay, now he finds this move bishop c3, so to make the use of the rook on b1. But in my opinion, now we have quite an uncertain position. Not that obvious any longer. So Nepomniachtchi is back into the game. And we have a question in the chat if Kasparov been regarding difference between classical, rapid and blitz. I don't know. I think Kasparov been a great blitz player. At least from what I heard. He has been extremely strong in blitz chess.
I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think in those days there were less blitz and rapid events.
I agree, yeah.
So I would guess that Kasparov is very good at blitz and rapid and any other form of chess in the 80s and 90s. And we didn't see it much because it was slightly more of a curiosity than it used to be.
Yes. There have been much less official blitz games played, but I think unofficially people been playing a lot of blitz because the tournaments, they took so long. Yeah, the tournaments took almost a month. So the friendship, I think, between the top players been much closer than now. Now players are more in sort of preparing, going to the game, going back, hello. But 30 years ago, it'd been more like a real community. So they've been playing a lot of blitz between each other. And from the stories I heard, many guys are saying that actually Kasparov been an amazing blitz player.
Yeah, all the events have gotten a lot shorter, not just in time controls, but in the length of the event. I mean, they used to go to Linares for a month, and it was totally normal. And the World Championship matches used to be 24 games, and it's all shorter nowadays.
Yeah, much shorter. And I think now with internet chess, it will get even shorter and shorter and shorter. So the classical chess, I think, will disappear over some time.
It's much easier from I mean, I know why they do it. It's much easier. People will talk a lot about it being more entertaining, and I don't know, maybe it is, but faster chess being more entertaining. From an organizational perspective, it's, if you have to, rent out a hotel in Linares, Spain, it's a lot cheaper to rent it out for 2 weeks than for a month.
Yeah.
So.
Of course, from the organization point of view, definitely. And actually, a very interesting moment now in the game of Magnus, because we have this knight to f4 and played almost instantly by Nepomniachtchi. Yeah, he just thought 40 seconds before playing knight f4. And before playing knight f4, I mean, with knight f4, you must be sure or you're winning or you're losing the game. Yeah, because Magnus is obliged to take on f4. In case he's not taking on f4, we have this knight g2 and all the white squares are just collapsing. So to take on f4 is a must. And now we have this queen f3, king a6. Today the kings are walking, yeah?
Lots of kings. Yeah, neither king looks especially safe to me. It says a lot that the king on a6, I'm not sure if that's even the worst king right now.
No, I think the king feels himself quite comfortable on a6. But we have this king a6, rook h4, yeah? Combination. But I think in case Magnus will not manage to find now something that really will disturb Jan Nepomniachtchi, I think black is almost winning, because we have all these white squares. Knight is getting to d5, the rook is getting back to the game over h6 to g6. So Magnus goes with d5. Yeah, very, very normal decision. He needs to do something. So d5.
Yep. If
the game still remains unbelievably sharp. I mean, beautiful play, yeah? Chris, in case we're commenting such a game, I think sometimes we underestimate how good the players are, yeah? We almost see...
Yeah, this is amazing.
We almost see zero big blunders. All these tactical combinations, all these positional ideas, yeah? They are so good, yeah? They are so good.
Well, we had another sacrifice on d5.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
on e6.
Yes. Magnus is going for it. Yeah, he needs to find something. He needs to do something. But I think the position of white is not great. We have now king, I don't know, maybe h2. But I think it does not matter because Nepomniachtchi, he has this queen b5 move. Queen b5. And I think the black king is safe. Maybe even there is something better than queen to b5, but I think even queen b7 might be, no, queen b7, queen f5 mate, yeah, queen b5. So queen b5 played, very normal. Rook d1, yeah, now we can be sure that Magnus is losing. Chris, Magnus is losing. Wow. Yeah, so...
Yeah, this is it got away from him. You know, I think I said earlier he only had to play a few defensive moves and he'd be doing well. He couldn't.
No, but I think he played a nice game, but he went wrong with this knight h4 idea. 24, the move 24, knight h4. It just looks so strange. He had to get the knight to h4. Why do you play knight h4? Of course, Magnus, he knows what he's doing, but still, knight h4. It just looks why to put your knight to h4, and he gets this queen b5 by Nepomniachtchi. Very nice move, yeah. Queen to b5, and suddenly b2 is hanging. Bishop's rook b1, yeah, clearly misplaced. Nepomniachtchi queen b3, and this amazing sacrifice with knight f4. Of course, we have to give a big respect to Nepomniachtchi for playing knight f4. Beautiful move, yeah, just beautiful.
Yeah, amazing, great move.
Yeah, and it seems like Nepomniachtchi is now very close to win his game against Magnus. We have bishop e3, f4. Yeah, the game is over. I think no more chances for the great Magnus Carlsen. So Magnus is fighting with a move rook f5, but black even is able to take on h3. So yeah, exchange up for black plus a pawn. It is complete game over. I think the sponsors of the tournament are probably very upset, yeah, because Magnus is not always in the final, yeah, and he is not winning the events.
He missed the final the last time, didn't he? As I recall.
Yes, he was in the final, but he is not every time in the final, yeah. And I think they expected him to be the clear winner of this events, or majority of the times at least.
I know that what's the Norwegian TV station NRK paid a lot of money for the rights to broadcast these games.
Yeah.
And I would presume that the games do better on Norwegian TV when the Norwegian world champion is playing, but maybe it doesn't make that much of a difference. I don't know. I would assume they do a lot better with Magnus playing.
Definitely. No, but I think, Chris, without Magnus, this event would be like maybe 1/10 of it, what it is, yeah? I think the name of the world champion, the title of the world champion, and he is the world champion for the last 10 years. It brings 90%, I think, of marketing for the tournament.
Yeah, the biggest event in chess is always whatever Magnus is playing in. I mean, I caught myself the other day. We were talking about something, and I said with somebody that the biggest events in chess are usually the candidates in the world championship. It's kind of true, but the biggest event is whatever Magnus is playing.
Yes.
Really, I think if they had a world championship between the number 2 and the number 3 player, and at the same time you had an event with Magnus playing, probably the event with Magnus playing would have more people watching.
For sure. Very obviously, especially now that he has this Play Magnus group, which is a huge company, and without Magnus, it's not the same.
We have a resignation.
I think so. Yeah, Magnus lost. Actually, it's his first loss, no, on during the tournament. I think he lost 0 games, or he lost some games before.
I don't know. He might have lost one in the prelims. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I'm not sure. I think he played extremely well. So maybe it might be his first loss, and actually a loss was a white pieces. Yeah. So in the last game he needs a win. He needs a win with the black pieces. It's going to be not an easy task. So we have now Wesley So with white against Anish Giri. The game did not start yet, or it might be a forced draw. Yeah.
It's a good moment to raid your channel if you want to, Arkadij.
Sure, Chris. Okay.
Let me set that up. Nobody leave. We're just going to switch over to Arkadij's channel. Nothing is changing. We just...
Thanks.
You won't even have to leave the Twitch channel if you're watching on Twitch. You will just automatically be sent over. We will handle everything. According to somebody in chat, Magnus lost to
Yes,
Anish.
yes, I see it. Yeah, thanks for the information. Yeah. People are writing in the chat, and no joke rate. Actually, Chris, how you came to this account? No joke.
It was so long ago. I can't even remember. I think I read an Emanuel Lasker. I think I read some book by Emanuel Lasker recently.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something was no joke. He was saying something was really great or really, and I don't know, it struck me as being very modern. I didn't know people in 1915 or whatever were saying no joke, and for some reason that stuck in my head, and I had to make an account on Lichess the next day and just made it. I wish I had a better story. I wish it was my father was dying and he told me to use that name. No, it's nothing like that. It's very random.
Yeah, and actually, Chris, first you started to use Lichess as a user, or you've been already an admin on Lichess?
Let me do the raid and I'll answer that question. One second. All right, I believe.
Let